Why was everyone staring at the captain, when the one who mattered sat 3 chairs down, silent, unseen? The briefing room was dim, the projector humming against the wall as maps flickered in pale green. Dust floated in the stale air, catching the light like restless ash. Men leaned forward, their elbows on the table, eyes sharp, waiting for orders. The captain cleared his throat, his voice heavy, measured. Yet in the corner she sat still. No one spoke her name, not yet. To them she was just another presence, a shadow among uniforms, but if you looked closer, the way her hands rested motionless, the way her gaze never wavered, you would have felt it. Something different, something not in the room's rhythm. Outside, night pressed hard against the base. The desert stretched beyond the walls, endless and dark, carrying the wind's low whistle. Helicopters stood ready on the pad, blades clicking in the heat. Radios hissed with background chatter, the kind you didn't listen to unless something changed. The mission was dangerous. Everyone knew it. Everyone was waiting for the captain's words. Yet she sat there, carrying her own silence, her own story like a blade kept sheathed. The captain spoke of grids and corridors, enemy movement, a possible ambush. He marked the map with quick strokes, decisive. We go here, we extract, we leave no trace. Heads nodded, boots shuffled on the floor, but her eyes stayed locked on the map. She wasn't nodding, she wasn't moving, because there was something she hadn't told them, not yet. One of the younger soldiers, barely 23, still with the nervous habit of biting his lip, leaned toward her. "You good?" he whispered. His voice cracked, unsure if she even heard. She blinked once, slow. "Yeah," she said, a word so small it almost disappeared under the captain's next command. But her chest tightened when she said it, because no, she wasn't good. She hadn't been good in a long time. The memory pushed through uninvited. A smell, smoke and metal, a scream, her sister's voice. She shook it off, swallowing it like glass. No one here needed to know. No one here could understand. The briefing ended. The room broke into chatter and movement. Men slapped shoulders, checked gear, muttered curses. The captain lit a cigarette near the door, exhaling into the corridor's fluorescent hum. She stood slowly, gathering her pack. Her boots made no sound against the concrete, invisible, always invisible. And yet, tonight, invisibility was her strength. The air outside was sharp, carrying sand in its teeth. The helicopters loomed, shadows with wings. Engines coughed awake, the ground vibrating beneath steel. Red lights pulsed, painting faces in war colors. She tightened her vest, adjusted the strap of her rifle. Her fingers brushed the worn tape wrapped around the grip, marks from long nights, lonely places. Her talisman, her anchor. The captain walked past her without a glance. His boots hit the metal ramp of the first bird. The others followed, loud and alive, filling the night with energy. She followed last, always quiet. Inside the chopper, noise swallowed thought. Blades roared overhead, wind pressing hard into faces. The young soldier from earlier sat across from her, his helmet tilted forward, lips moving in some private prayer. His knuckles were white against his rifle. She closed her eyes just for a second, and she was back there, another chopper, another night, fire on the horizon. A hand slipping from hers, fingers burned, screaming. She forced the memory down, jaw clenched. Focus. Not now. The flight stretched long, measured only by the drone of the blades. Sweat rolled down necks, the smell of oil and metal filling lungs. The desert below was a black sea, endless and unbroken. When the captain finally gave the signal, hearts tightened. The bird dipped low. Dust stormed through the open hatch. Shadows of buildings appeared. A village, half ruined, crouched against the sand. They hit the ground hard, boots sinking in. The night swallowed them. Radios crackled, hands signaled. The squad moved, rifles up, eyes hunting the dark. She moved with them, but differently. Not louder, not slower, just apart, always one step outside the rhythm. They swept the first street empty. Windows black, doors half broken. Dogs barked in the distance, chains rattling. Somewhere a metal shutter creaked. The captain raised a fist. The squad froze. From the far end of the street came a sound. A door slammed. Footsteps. Echoes, hard to tell. The night was tricky here, too many places to hide. "Left team cover, right on me," the captain ordered. Voices firm, no hesitation. They split, boots against sand, rifles steady. She slipped into the shadows of a broken wall, eyes narrowing. Something felt off. Not the sound, the silence after. Silence too deep. Silence that pressed against your chest. Her hand brushed her rifle grip. Her breath slowed, she waited. Then she saw it, a glint faint from a rooftop, a scope, a barrel, just for a second, but enough. Her heart thudded, she opened her mouth, but no one was looking at her, no one ever was. The captain pushed forward unaware. The squad followed, tight and trusting. She exhaled once, then stepped out of the shadow. Her unseen step. Boot against sand. Rifle rising. And with it, the night began to change. The shot cracked, one clean burst of sound in the endless dark. The rooftop glint vanished. A body hit stone above, sliding into silence. The squad jerked, spinning toward her. The captain froze mid-stride, turning slowly. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Then the street erupted. Gunfire split the night, tearing from windows, doors, rooftops. Tracers hissed through the air, carving light into shadows. The ambush had sprung. But it didn't catch them blind. Not fully, not fatally, because of that one step, that one unseen decision. The captain shouted commands, voice drowned in chaos. Men dove for cover, bullets chewing the dirt where they had stood seconds before. She pressed herself against the wall, calm in the storm. Her rifle barked again, another rooftop cleared. She didn't shout. She didn't wait for orders. She simply acted. The young soldier scrambled beside her, panic in his eyes. "What do we do?" he gasped. His chest heaved, his hands shaking. She looked at him, just a glance, steady, silent, the kind of look that anchors drowning men. He breathed deeper, steadier, he nodded. And they moved together. The firefight raged. Dust clouds, muzzle flashes, screams echoing through alleys. The captain was shouting, but the squad wasn't following him anymore. Not fully. Their eyes flicked to her again and again. To the quiet one. The unseen one. And she kept moving, unheard, unnoticed, until her steps, her choices, drew the line between survival and death. But there was something she hadn't told them, not yet. Because this village, or this mission, wasn't just about the enemy. It was about her. And the secret she carried would decide more than just this night. It would decide who walked away at dawn. And who didn't. She had been the first to move, but no one would ever say it aloud. The captain's voice cut through the gunfire, hoarse with command. "Cover left, suppress." His words were swallowed by the roar of rifles, the shriek of ricochets. Sand sprayed from the ground as bullets snapped close, chewing stone, rattling the air. She knelt behind a half-broken wall, dust clinging to her lips. Her rifle barrel burned hot, smoke curling upward. She fired once, then again, each round precise, measured. A rooftop flash answered her. She dropped to the dirt, felt the heat graze past her ear, stone splintering inches away. Her pulse didn't race. Not anymore. She had lived with it too long, danger, bullets, shadows. Fear was a ghost she had buried long ago. But the others, they still felt it. Across the street, the young soldier, the one who whispered prayers, struggled to reload. His fingers fumbled, his breath ragged. A magazine clattered into the dirt. He cursed under his breath, voice breaking. She was already moving before he realized it. Sliding across the ground, rifle cradled close, she reached him. Her hand pressed his shoulder firm. Their eyes met through the haze. She didn't speak. She never needed to. Her presence was enough. His shaking slowed. His breath steadied. He slammed the new magazine in, nodded once. And for the first time, he didn't look to the captain for courage. He looked to her. The captain was shouting into the radio now. Static. No answer. Whoever was supposed to be listening wasn't, or maybe the signal was jammed. Either way, they were alone. Push right, he barked. His face glistened with sweat, jaw locked tight. But she didn't push right. She didn't move with the squad. She glanced left where the darkness was thicker, the silence too heavy. Something was there, she felt it. A shadow within shadows. She slipped away from the group, unseen in their chaos. Her boots silent on broken stone, her rifle lowered but ready. Every step pressed memory into her chest. Another night, another place. She had done this before, gone where no one asked her to, where no one followed. Back then, it had cost her everything. But tonight she couldn't hesitate. A faint sound, breath maybe, too steady to be fear, too close to be chance. She raised her rifle, slowly, carefully. Then movement, a figure half hidden in the rubble, eyes catching what little light there was. Her trigger squeezed. The figure fell, body folding into silence. She exhaled, only now realizing she had been holding the air in her lungs like a secret. And then she saw it. Behind the fallen enemy, a crack in the wall, a narrow passage, too deliberate to be natural. Her heart beat harder now, not from fear but from recognition. She had seen drawings like this once, years ago, scribbled on a piece of paper, given to her by her sister before everything went wrong. The others didn't know, they couldn't know. This wasn't just a mission, not for her. Because somewhere beneath this village lay something buried, something taken. And it was tied to the last words she ever heard from her sister. The firefight behind her still burned. She could hear the captain, his voice raw, rallying the squad, but she stayed in the shadow of the passage. Her hand trembled now, not from exhaustion but from the weight of memory. Her sister's voice echoed in her skull, faint but sharp. If anything happens, find the place I marked. Don't let them keep it. She had promised, and promises were heavier than any rifle. The passage called to her, but stepping in meant leaving the squad behind, meant walking alone into the unknown. She hesitated, just for a moment. Martinez. The captain's voice cut through the dark. He had noticed her absence. His tone was sharp, commanding, filled with the anger of someone who needed control. But she didn't answer. She couldn't, not yet. Instead, she took one step forward into the passage, an unseen step. The stone swallowed her whole. Inside, the air was different, cooler, stale. Her boots echoed against stone, the sound muffled by dust. The passage bent downward, narrow, claustrophobic. Her flashlight beam sliced through the dark, dust swirling in its glow. Every breath felt like inhaling the past, dirt, old fire, forgotten lives. Her rifle stayed ready, her senses sharpened. Every crack of stone, every whisper of sand shifting made her muscles tighten. Then faint voices, not English, low, harsh. She froze, her light snapping off. The dark pressed close. She crouched, her breath shallow. Two figures passed ahead, silhouettes against faint torchlight, armed, talking in clipped tones. Guards, maybe. She waited, heart steady. Then when they turned, she moved like water, silent, swift. Her blade slid from its sheath, 2 strikes, 2 bodies lowered into shadow. No sound, no struggle. Her hands trembled afterward, not from killing, she had done that too many times, but from what it meant. Every step deeper meant she wasn't here by accident. Her sister's voice echoed again. Don't let them keep it. What was it? She had never known, never asked. The day she might have asked was the day her sister was taken. Her chest ached, but she pushed on. The passage widened, spilling into a chamber. Torches flickered against stone walls. Crates lined the floor, stacked high, marked with symbols she didn't recognize. Weapons, documents, something else. She stepped closer. Her light skimmed across one crate half split open. Inside, wrapped in cloth, she saw. Not weapons, not gold. Books, old, leather-bound, stained by time. She frowned. Confusion pressed against her skull. Why would they guard books in a war zone? Why would her sister die for this? Then footsteps. She snapped her light off, pressing into shadow. A man entered, tall, scarred, his uniform worn but precise. He barked orders in a language she barely understood. Others followed, 4, maybe 5. They moved like men who had done this too long. She stayed still, breath buried in her chest. And as they passed, one of them carried something different. Not a book, not a crate. A box, small, locked. Her stomach dropped. That was it. She didn't know how she knew. She just did. The box was the reason her sister had whispered those words. The reason she had carried this weight for years. But the men carried it out of the chamber, away from her. She wanted to move, to follow, but she froze, because following meant choosing between the mission she was assigned to and the promise she had buried like a blade in her heart. Her squad was still out there, pinned down. Her captain still believed she was with them. The young soldier might be dying in the dirt without her steady eyes. But the box, if she let it go, the promise died. Her sister's voice died. Her throat tightened. She had seconds, maybe less. She moved. Boots soft, steps unseen, following the men into the dark toward the faint echo of daylight. Above her the gunfire still echoed. Below her the weight of history pressed heavy. And in her chest the choice carved deep. She wasn't following the captain anymore. She was following her sister's ghost. The village burned above, but no one noticed her absence. Not yet. And when they did, it would already be too late. Because the night was no longer theirs. It was hers. What would they say when they realized she was gone? The thought scratched at the edge of her mind as she pressed herself against the stone wall, following the men who carried the small, locked box. Their boots echoed faintly, their voices low, confident. They didn't know she was there. They didn't know someone had chosen to leave her own squad to shadow them. But her chest tightened. Every step away from her squad tore something inside her. The young soldier's face flickered in her mind, the panic in his eyes, the trust he had given her, trust she had just abandoned. She forced the thought down, not now, later if later came. The men pushed through a door of warped wood, its hinges groaning. She slipped in behind them, keeping to shadow. The torchlight danced on their faces, sweat shining, rifles hanging loose but ready. Then an opening ahead. The passage spilled into the back of the village, where moonlight carved the world into sharp silver and black. Cool air touched her face. She crouched low, heart steady. Her finger brushed the trigger guard of her rifle. One squeeze and the box would drop, but not safely, not clean. They'd scatter, fight, maybe destroy it before she could even touch it. She needed to wait. She needed to know where they were taking it. But every second stretched the distance between her and her squad. Gunfire still rattled somewhere beyond, echoing between crumbling walls. Shouts carried faintly. Men fighting. Men she had walked away from. Her throat burned. The scarred man barked something, pointing to a truck idling in the shadows. The engine coughed low, headlights taped over. The box bearer climbed in back, the others fanning out with rifles ready. She gritted her teeth. If the truck moved, she might lose them. If she stepped in now, she might never see her squad again. Her heart split in two. And then static. Her earpiece hissed. The captain's voice, raw, urgent. "Martinez, report. Where the hell are you? We're pinned. We need." His voice cut into her like glass. She ripped the earpiece from her ear, pressing it hard in her fist until the plastic bit her skin. Her breath shook. She looked at the truck, the box. And she whispered, almost like prayer, "I can't." Then she moved. She darted forward, silent, shadow against shadow. Her boots kissed the dirt without sound. One man turned, sensing something, but too late. Her rifle cracked, his body dropping hard. Chaos erupted. Shouts, gunfire, dust exploding around her. She rolled behind a stone trough, bullets sparking off its rim. Her rifle barked again, then again, 2 more men down. The box bearer scrambled, clutching the small locked chest like it was his heart. He bolted for the truck's cab. Her eyes narrowed. She rose from cover, fired once. The bullet kissed his shoulder, spinning him to the ground. The box clattered free, sliding in the dirt. Time froze. Her chest heaved. Every sound muted, the gunfire, the shouting. All she saw was the box, inches from her reach. Her sister's voice pulsed in her skull. "Don't let them keep it." She lunged, fingers brushed the metal. And then a hand caught her wrist. The scarred man. His grip was iron, yanking her sideways, slamming her against stone. Pain burst through her shoulder. Her rifle fell, clattering. He loomed, face cut by shadow, eyes burning. His knife flashed. She caught his wrist with both hands, straining. Muscles burned. His breath was hot, sour. His teeth gritted, pushing the blade closer. Her mind screamed, but not for herself, for the box lying inches away, for the promise buried in her chest. She twisted, drove her knee into his gut. He grunted, staggered. The knife slipped free, clattering to the dirt. Her hand shot to her boot, steel hissed, her blade rose. And with one sharp motion, the scarred man's body dropped. Her breath tore from her lungs, her hands shook, blood slicked her blade. The world spun quiet for a heartbeat. Then shouts, more men rushing from the dark. She grabbed the box, clutching it to her chest, heavy, cold. Her fingers tightened until they ached. And then she ran. The village twisted around her, alleys broken, walls jagged, shadows alive with danger. Boots thundered behind her, shouts closing in. Bullets sparked stone, chasing her heels. Her lungs burned, her heart pounded. The box weighed more with every step, dragging her down. She ducked into a collapsed archway, pressing into shadow. Her breath came ragged. She held the box tight, sweat slicking her palms. Shouts drew closer. She couldn't stay here. Her eyes flicked upward. A stairwell half collapsed, leading to a rooftop. She moved fast, boots scraping stone. The box dug into her ribs. She climbed, slipped, caught herself. At the rooftop, the village spread wide. Shattered buildings, fires flickering, the distant crack of rifles. Somewhere in that chaos, her squad still fought, still waited. Her chest tightened. But she turned away. Because in her arms lay the weight of her sister's ghost. She crouched low, watching the alley below. Men swarmed past, rifles raised. They didn't look up. They never looked up. She waited, heart steady, until the street cleared. Then she opened the box. The lock was simple, rusted. Her knife slipped in, twisted, it clicked. She lifted the lid. And froze. Inside lay a single journal, worn, leather-bound, its pages yellowed by time. Handwriting filled its edges, tight, urgent, fatting. She touched it, fingers trembling. Her chest ached because she recognized the handwriting. It was her sister. Her breath caught. She stared, unblinking, as the world fell away. Her sister's journal, hidden, guarded, worth killing for. Her throat closed. She pressed the pages to her chest, a sob shaking loose before she could stop it. All this time, all these years. Her sister's voice wasn't just in her head, it was here, in her hands. But the weight grew heavier. Because if the enemy wanted this, if they killed to keep it hidden, then whatever her sister wrote inside wasn't just personal. It was dangerous. And she was now the only one holding it. The gunfire below dragged her back, shouts rising, closer again. She wiped her face with the back of her glove, teeth gritted. The journal slid into her vest. The box clattered aside, empty. She grabbed her rifle, checked the magazine, breath deep. Then she made her choice. She would go back to the squad, to the captain, to the young soldier who still needed her steady eyes. But this time, she wouldn't be the shadow. She would be the storm. The path back was fire and dust. She moved fast, cutting through alleys, her rifle barking, enemies dropping in her wake. Her body burned, but her mind was clear. And then she saw them. Her squad huddled behind broken walls, pinned under fire. The captain crouched low, shouting orders. His eyes caught her for the first time, noticing her, really noticing. She didn't stop. She slid into cover, rifle snapping up. Her rounds cut through the ambush, clearing the rooftops, scattering the enemy. Her breath came steady. Her hands didn't shake. The young soldier's eyes widened, relief flooding his face. "You came back," he whispered. She didn't answer, she just reloaded. Because the night wasn't over. And now everything had changed. But she hadn't told them about the journal. Not yet. Because if she did, the mission wouldn't be the same. And neither would she. Why did they look at her differently now? The firefight had ended, the echoes still vibrating against the broken village walls. The squad was breathing hard, sweat dripping, blood mixing with sand. But their eyes kept flicking toward her, toward the one who had left, the one who had returned. The captain wiped grit from his cheek, his chest rising with anger he hadn't released yet. His jaw tightened as he looked at her. "Where the hell were you?" His voice was low, sharp, not a question, an accusation. She didn't answer. Her rifle was still hot in her hands, smoke curling. Her face was streaked with dirt, her eyes steady. She met his stare without flinching. The silence between them thickened. The young soldier, smeared with dust, helmet crooked, broke it. "She saved us." His voice cracked, but his eyes were certain. He looked at her like someone clinging to an anchor. If she hadn't come back, he stopped, swallowed, the words caught in his throat. The captain's jaw flexed. His gaze stayed on her, but the edge of his anger dulled, just enough. "Fine," he muttered, turning away. "Mount up, we're moving." Boots shuffled, rifles reloaded. Men muttered under their breath, some grateful, some suspicious. She felt their glances like weight on her back. But she said nothing. She couldn't, not yet. Because the journal pressed against her chest, hidden beneath her vest. Its presence was louder than any accusation, heavier than any silence. The squad moved through the village ruins, slow and cautious. Fires flickered in the distance, the smell of burning wood and metal curling in the air. The night hummed with danger, too quiet, too still. She walked at the rear as always. Her eyes scanned the rooftops, the alleys, the shadows, but her thoughts were elsewhere. The journal. Her sister's handwriting, still alive in ink and paper. Her chest ached every time she felt it press against her. She wanted to stop, to rip it open, to read every line. But not here, not now, not with eyes on her. The captain raised a fist. The squad froze. He signaled right, toward a broken courtyard with stone arches crumbling under the moonlight. "Hold here," he ordered. His voice was steel. "We regroup, check ammo, then push to exfil." They spread out, taking cover. The young soldier slumped against a wall, pulling off his helmet. His hair was damp with sweat, his face pale. He caught her eye. "Thought you weren't coming back," he said softly, not accusing, just truth. She crouched beside him, her rifle across her knees. She didn't answer. But after a beat, she whispered, "I keep promises." He frowned. "What promises?" She looked away, jaw tightening. She had said too much. He didn't press, but the question lingered, heavy, unspoken. The captain paced near the arch, radio pressed to his ear. Static. He cursed it under his breath, slamming it against the stone. No response. No extraction confirmation. She watched him from the shadows. His shoulders were rigid, his movements sharp. He needed control. He thrived on it, and tonight it was slipping. He glanced at her again, brief, suspicious. He wanted to know where she had gone, what she had done, but he didn't ask, not yet. The squad murmured in low voices. Jokes cracked, thin and brittle. One man lit a cigarette, the ember glowing faint in the dark. Another stared at the sky, lips moving in prayer. They were human again for a moment, fragile and tired. And she felt the distance, the space between her silence and their voices. Her hand brushed her vest, feeling the journal through the fabric. It was burning her. When the squad settled, when the quiet stretched, she slipped back into the shadows of a half-collapsed room, alone. Her flashlight beam was faint, narrow. Her hands shook as she pulled the journal free. The leather was worn, cracked at the edges. Her sister's handwriting curved across the first page, tight, hurried, familiar. She traced the letters with her finger. Her throat closed. She turned the page. Words, drawings, notes, coordinates. Her breath caught. It wasn't just her sister's diary. It was a map. Not of this village, of something larger, something buried deeper, hidden under layers of silence. She flipped faster, her eyes devouring the pages. Every line carried urgency, warnings, secrets she couldn't yet piece together. Then she froze. Her name, written clear, underlined twice. She blinked, her chest heaving. Her sister had written to her, for her. Her hands trembled as she read the lines. If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it. I'm sorry, but you have to finish what I started. You can't trust them, not all of them. Some of them are already compromised. If they find this, it's over. You're the only one I trust. Her breath broke. She pressed a hand to her mouth to stop the sound. The journal shook in her hands. Tears blurred the ink. She wanted to scream, to throw it, to burn it, but she couldn't. She couldn't. Because the promise wasn't just memory anymore. It was written. It was real. And it was hers to carry. Martinez. The voice snapped her out of the dark. The captain stood at the doorway, his eyes sharp, suspicion heavy in his gaze. Her hand slammed the journal shut, shoving it into her vest. Her heart raced, but her face stayed still. "Yes, sir," she said. Her voice was flat, steady. His eyes narrowed. He scanned her as if searching for cracks. "You disappear again," he said quietly, "and I'll bury you myself." She held his stare, didn't flinch, didn't speak. He turned away, muttering, "We move in 5." Her chest heaved, sweat clung to her skin. The journal pressed against her ribs, her sister's words burning through the leather. You can't trust them. Her stomach turned, her mind spiraled. Who couldn't she trust? The captain, the squad, the young soldier who looked at her like she was the only solid ground left. Her throat tightened, the silence pressed harder. She wanted to tell someone, she wanted to share the weight. But the words wouldn't come. Because trust was already fractured, and once broken, it could never be pieced whole again. The squad moved again, slipping through alleys, their boots whispering against sand. The night was colder now, the wind sharp, carrying ash and smoke. She walked at the edge, her eyes scanning the dark, but her mind was somewhere else, buried in ink and words and warnings. Every glance at the captain tightened her chest. Every shout of command scraped her nerves raw. Every glance from the young soldier hurt more, because he trusted her, and she didn't know if she deserved it. The journal's weight grew heavier with every step. And she knew, with a clarity that hollowed her out. This mission wasn't about survival anymore. It was about choice. And the night would end not with orders from a captain, but with the step she chose to take. The first shot cracked like lightning. Stone shattered near the captain's head, spraying dust into the night. The squad dropped instantly, boots scraping, rifles snapping up. The silence of their march was gone in an instant, replaced by chaos. "Contact north," the captain roared, his voice cutting through gunfire. Tracers lit the alleyway, red and white streaks carving through the dark. Shadows shifted on rooftops, enemy muzzles flashing. The squad dove for cover, returning fire in sharp bursts. She slid behind a broken wall, her rifle against her shoulder, her breath steady. Her eyes scanned rooftops, shadows, alleys, and she saw them, figures moving with precision, too coordinated for local militia. Not random, not desperate, this was planned. Her stomach dropped. Her sister's warning echoed, "You can't trust them." How had the enemy known their route, their stop points, their timing? Her finger tightened on the trigger, firing controlled shots. Two silhouettes crumpled. Another slipped back into shadow. But even as she fought, her mind spiraled. Was this the compromise her sister had written about? The young soldier's voice cracked through the storm. "I'm out, reloading." His hands fumbled at his vest, panic flaring in his eyes. She was already moving. She slid across broken stone, slammed her shoulder against his cover. Her hand found his mag pouch before his did, ripping one free and shoving it into his rifle. "Breathe," she said, her voice sharp, steady. His wide eyes found hers, and for a second in the chaos he nodded. She popped up, fired 2 rounds, dropped back down. "Stay low, count your shots." He swallowed hard, steadied his grip, and nodded again. But his trust, it burned her chest raw. Because what if she was already carrying the reason they were dying tonight? The captain was a storm in motion, barking orders, shifting positions, his rifle cracking in sharp bursts. His control was iron, his voice cutting above the noise. But his eyes, every time they flicked toward her, they carried suspicion, accusation. He saw her as a question mark, and she saw him as a possibility. Her sister's words clawed at her mind. Not all of them. Some are compromised. Was it him, his orders, his choices that had led them into this perfect trap? She didn't know, she couldn't know. But the seed of doubt was already planted. And in war, doubt was a weapon sharper than any blade. The fight raged. Grenades thumped, explosions tearing through walls. Dust and smoke swallowed the courtyard. Voices shouted, some cut off mid-cry. She moved like a ghost through it, eyes sharp, steps calculated. Every bullet she fired landed. Every cover shift was precise. The squad fought harder because she was there. She knew it. She felt it. But still, the journal weighed heavier than her rifle. Because survival tonight wouldn't matter if her sister's warning was true. Minutes bled like hours, then silence. The last echo of gunfire faded. The alley reeked of cordite and blood. Bodies littered the rooftops and streets. Enemy fighters lay still, their rifles cooling. The squad panted, coughing in the dust. Boots shifted on rubble. Groans of pain cut the air as wounded men clutched bleeding arms and legs. The captain stood tall, chest heaving, his eyes scanning the shadows. His rifle lowered, but his suspicion didn't. His gaze landed on her. "You," he said, his voice low, cutting. The squad's eyes followed. "You disappear, then we walk into this." His jaw flexed, rage straining against control. "What did you give them?" Her blood ran cold. The young soldier's head snapped toward the captain. "She saved me, saved us." His voice cracked, desperate. The captain didn't blink. His eyes stayed locked on her. The squad shifted, unease rippling. Her throat was dry. Words pressed, clawed to escape. But the journal against her chest burned like a brand. She couldn't tell them. Not yet. Not with trust already bleeding out onto the sand. "I didn't give them anything," she said finally, her voice steady, flat. The captain stepped closer, face inches from hers. His eyes searched, digging for cracks. And in that silence she realized he didn't believe her. Not fully. Maybe not at all. They gathered the wounded, bound up bleeding arms with torn cloth. Rifles were reloaded, mags checked. The squad moved slower now, steps heavier, every shadow a threat. But the greater threat wasn't in the shadows. It was in their eyes. Suspicion. Doubt. Cracks spreading through trust that had once been steel. And she was the center of it. Her sister's warning poisoned every glance, every silence, every hesitation. Hours later, under the fractured glow of a half-moon, they found brief shelter in the ruins of a burned-out school. Blackened chalkboards still clung to walls. Desks lay shattered, scorched. Ghosts of children lingered in the ash. The squad slumped against walls, exhaustion dragging at their bodies, bandages stained red, faces gray with dust. She sat alone, her back to a collapsed doorway. Her rifle lay across her lap, the journal pressed into her ribs. Her eyes stayed sharp, scanning shadows, but her mind was burning. Her sister's words repeated, relentless, "You're the only one I trust." Her chest tightened until breathing hurt. Because she wanted to believe them, wanted to believe she was chosen because she was strong enough, loyal enough. But part of her feared the truth. Maybe her sister had left her the journal not because she was trusted, but because she was expendable. The young soldier dragged himself across the floor, slumping beside her. His hands shook as he pulled a canteen free, taking a long drink before handing it to her. "You okay?" he asked softly. She blinked at him. Dust streaked his face, blood crusted at his temple. His eyes were tired but steady. "I've seen worse," she said. Her voice was even. He gave a weak laugh. "That's not an answer." She didn't reply. His gaze lingered, searching. "You saved me twice tonight," he said. His tone wasn't light. It was heavy, weighted with something deeper. "Why?" Her throat tightened. She wanted to tell him the truth, about her sister, about the journal, about the weight crushing her chest. But the warning was louder. "You can't trust them." So she stayed silent. And his eyes dimmed just a little. He looked away. And the silence between them became another battlefield. Across the room, the captain cleaned his rifle with deliberate precision. His movements were sharp, controlled, but his gaze flicked up often toward her, watching, measuring. She felt it, every glance like a blade against her skin. And she knew, with cold clarity, that the war outside wasn't the only one being fought. The war inside the squad had already begun. That night, under a ruined roof open to the stars, she lay awake while the others slept. The journal pressed against her chest. Her sister's words pulsed in her skull. "Not all of them, some are compromised." The squad breathed heavy in sleep. The young soldier twitched in dreams. The captain shifted, his hand never far from his rifle. She stared into the dark, her body still, her mind burning. The choice was coming. And when it did, it wouldn't be the captain who decided how the night ended. It would be her. Her unseen step. The morning broke without warmth. A thin, pale sun rose through the dust, casting long shadows across the ruined school. The squad stirred slowly, bodies aching, wounds stiffening. No one spoke much, not even the captain. They moved in silence, checking weapons, rationing water. Every sound seemed louder in that silence. The click of a rifle bolt, the rustle of a pack, the scrape of boots on ash. And every glance seemed heavier. Because suspicion had no sunrise, it only grew darker. She checked her rifle, the barrel still warm from last night's firefight. Her fingers moved automatically, but her mind was elsewhere, on the journal pressed against her chest. Her sister's warning had turned from echo to drumbeat. "Not all of them, some are compromised." She had searched the words over and over, wishing for clarity. But her sister's voice, always cryptic, always layered, had left her with questions instead of answers. And now, every face around her seemed like a mask. The young soldier, still looking at her with trust she didn't deserve. The captain, eyes sharp, cutting her down with suspicion. The others caught between silence and fear, waiting for someone to break first. She didn't know who to protect, who to doubt, who to trust. And the weight of not knowing, it was killing her faster than any bullet. They moved again, slipping through narrow streets where walls leaned inward, where shadows stretched too long. The city felt alive, watching them. Every window, every rooftop, every corner seemed to breathe. She scanned constantly, her eyes sharp, her steps calculated. Her rifle followed her gaze like an extension of thought, but no amount of discipline could smother the gnawing in her gut. Because she knew, Another ambush was coming. Not maybe, not if. Inevitable. Hours passed before it came. The crack of a rifle split the air. A man at the rear went down, blood exploding from his shoulder. The squad spun, rifles raised, eyes searching for the unseen shooter. Then it was everywhere at once. Gunfire erupted from alleys, rooftops, shattered doorways. Muzzle flashes lit the dark. Bullets screamed past their ears. The squad dove for cover, returning fire in desperate bursts. But this time it was worse. The enemy wasn't reckless. They were methodical, coordinated. Every position the squad moved to was already targeted. Every attempt to break the ambush was cut off. It was as if their movements were being read in advance. Like someone already knew. Her blood froze. Her sister's words hissed louder than the gunfire. Some are compromised. Her eyes flicked to the captain. His commands were sharp, but the ambush, it was too perfect. His orders led them into the choke points. His timing kept exposing them. But maybe that was coincidence. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was someone else. The doubt was poison, and it spread with every passing second. The young soldier shouted, panic rising, "We're boxed in." "Hold the line," the captain barked back. But the line was breaking. Bullets chewed walls, sprayed stone. The squad was pinned, trapped like rats in a cage. And then her radio crackled. Static first, then a voice, low, almost a whisper. "You're not supposed to be alive." Her chest went ice cold. The voice was distorted but familiar in rhythm, calculated, calm. She froze, rifle slack in her hands. Her eyes darted to the captain. His radio was at his shoulder. His lips didn't move. His eyes were on her. And for one heart-stopping second, she didn't know if it had been him. A grenade clattered into the alley. Her body moved before thought. She lunged, grabbed it, hurled it back. The blast shook the ground, fire spitting into the air. Her ears rang, smoke searing her throat. The young soldier dragged her back behind cover, eyes wide with shock. "You could have died." She blinked, coughed, forced her body steady. "So could you." But her mind wasn't on the grenade. It was on the voice in the radio. And the sickening certainty that someone here was feeding the enemy every move they made. They fought inch by bloody inch until the ambush broke. The enemy faded into shadows as suddenly as they had appeared. The city swallowed them again. The squad was bleeding, shaken, but alive. Barely. And the silence afterward was worse than the gunfire. Because silence left room for suspicion. And suspicion was already louder than any weapon. That night they sheltered in a gutted warehouse, its roof caved in, walls scarred black from fire. The squad huddled close, exhaustion dragging at their faces. The captain stood apart, always watching. His gaze lingered on her, sharp, cutting. The young soldier stayed near her side, his trust stubborn, unshaken. But the others, they whispered, shifted, avoided her eyes. The journal against her chest felt heavier than her rifle. She wanted to scream the truth, tell them about her sister, the warning, the corruption in their midst. But what if she chose wrong? What if she pointed at the innocent? What if her silence was the only thing holding them together? Her hands shook. She clenched them into fists until her nails cut skin. She didn't know which would kill them faster, her silence or her words. Later, as the squad drifted into uneasy sleep, she sat awake. The journal was open in her lap, the faded ink barely visible in the weak moonlight. Her sister's handwriting was steady, calm. "If you're reading this, I didn't make it back. Trust no one, not even your captain. You're the only one left who can end this." Her chest ached so hard it hurt to breathe. Because she finally understood. This wasn't just about survival. This mission wasn't theirs anymore. It was hers. And the step she took next, the unseen choice, would decide not just how the night ended, but whether anyone saw the morning. The sound of rain began before dawn. It wasn't heavy, just a whisper against the broken roof of the warehouse, a soft tapping on metal scraps and shattered glass. But in the silence of the squad's uneasy rest, it sounded deafening. She lay awake, her rifle across her chest, her sister's journal pressed to her ribs. Her eyes traced the cracks in the ceiling, the faint glow of dawn bleeding through. She hadn't slept, she couldn't. Because she knew, before the sun set again, someone here would break. The captain's voice cut through the silence. Up now. The squad stirred, groaning, coughing dust from their lungs. They moved sluggishly, but his tone left no room for delay. He paced the floor, his eyes sweeping each face, and then they landed on her. You disappear, you show back up. We walk into ambushes that know every move we're going to make. You want me to believe that's chance? His voice was steel. The others froze. The young soldier stiffened beside her, fists clenched. Her chest burned, but her voice was steady. I'm not your leak. Then who is? His eyes narrowed. Because it's not coincidence. Someone is feeding them, and until I find out who, every one of you is suspect. Silence heavy, crushing. And in that silence, trust finally broke. Two soldiers shifted uneasily, avoiding her gaze. Another spat on the ground, muttering, never should have let her back in. Her throat tightened. She wanted to scream, wanted to throw the journal at their feet, show them the truth written in her sister's hand. But if she did, if she revealed the warning, it would turn them all against one another, tear them apart before the enemy had to lift a finger. Her sister hadn't trusted anyone, not even the captain. And now she understood why. Because the enemy wasn't just outside these walls. It was here. They moved again that day, but the squad was no longer a unit. Every step was fractured, every glance was sharp, suspicious. Conversations died mid-breath. She walked near the rear, eyes scanning rooftops, alleys, windows. But even sharper than her vigilance was the ache in her chest, the knowledge that she wasn't just fighting enemies in the shadows. She was fighting enemies in their own ranks. And maybe, just maybe, one of those enemies wore the captain's face. By mid-afternoon, the rain had thickened. Streets turned slick, dust turning to mud beneath their boots. The smell of smoke still lingered, sharp and bitter, rising from burned-out homes. And then it happened. The young soldier, walking at her side, stiffened. His eyes narrowed on the captain. "Wait," he whispered. "That's the wrong turn. That's not the route we agreed." Her pulse spiked. The captain glanced back, his jaw set. "Plans change." The young soldier shook his head. "No, you're leading us into another choke point." The squad froze, boots skidding in mud. Eyes darted between them, unease thick as the rain. The captain's voice was low, sharp. "Do you think you know this city better than me?" The young soldier's hand tightened on his rifle. His voice cracked but didn't falter. "I think you're leading us into the same traps, over and over." And then the silence shattered. Because the accusation had finally been spoken out loud. The squad turned. Some to the captain. Some to her. Some caught between. And suddenly, rifles weren't just pointed outward. They were creeping inward. Her breath caught. Her eyes darted to the young soldier, then to the captain. One wrong word, one wrong move. And this squad would destroy itself without the enemy firing a single shot. Her hands trembled. She clenched them around her rifle, forcing steadiness. Her sister's voice echoed. "You're the only one left who can end this." She swallowed hard. Her throat was dry, but her voice was clear. "Stop." The word cut sharper than gunfire. The squad froze. "Point rifles outward," she said, her tone flat, commanding. "Or none of us make it out of this city." For the first time, her voice wasn't a suggestion. It was a blade. The young soldier hesitated. Then slowly he lowered his rifle. Others followed reluctantly. The captain's eyes stayed locked on her, searching, measuring. And in that moment she felt it, control shifting. Not to him. To her. They moved again, but something fundamental had changed. The squad no longer looked only to the captain for orders. Their eyes flicked to her now, too. And the captain saw it, felt it. His jaw tightened, his pace quicker, his voice harder. But the seed had been planted. Her unseen step had already shifted the balance. That night they found shelter in the skeleton of a collapsed theater. Rain dripped through the open roof, pooling in cracked tiles. Dust and ash coated the rows of broken seats. The squad huddled in silence, eating what little they had left. She sat apart, her sister's journal open in her lap. Her eyes traced the ink she had memorized 100 times. Trust no one, not even your captain. Her chest tightened. Because for the first time, she wasn't just a soldier carrying someone else's words. She was the one the squad was starting to listen to. And that terrified her more than any bullet. The young soldier slid down beside her, his hands shaking as he unwrapped a ration bar. He broke it in half, handed her the bigger piece. "You shouldn't have to carry this," he whispered. She blinked at him. "What do you mean?" He swallowed hard, his eyes glistening in the weak firelight. "The weight, holding everyone together, it's killing you." Her throat ached. She wanted to tell him he was wrong, that she was fine, that she was strong enough. But the truth pressed too heavy. "I don't know if I am," she whispered back. He stared at her for a long time, then he nodded slow. "That's how I know you are." Her chest tightened, warmth mixing with pain. Because trust like that, pure, undeserved, was more dangerous than doubt. Across the room, the captain cleaned his weapon, his eyes never leaving her. She felt his gaze, sharp as a blade, cutting her down to her core. And she realized the real battle wasn't just against the enemy outside. It was for the soul of this squad, for who they would follow, for who they would believe, and for who would survive the night. The rain eased, the fire died to embers. One by one, the squad drifted into restless sleep. She sat awake, her rifle in one hand, her sister's journal in the other. Her unseen step had already begun to reshape the path. But tomorrow would decide everything. Because betrayal couldn't hide forever. And when it came into the open, she would have to choose. Not just between them, but between who she had been and who she would become. She didn't move when the night ended. She didn't need to. The courtyard was quiet now, the broken gates hanging half open, the lanterns dimming as if ashamed of what they had witnessed. Men whispered about the captain, about the call he made, about the silence that followed. But in truth, none of them saw the step she had taken. Not fully, not for what it was. She slipped out of the circle of light, boots soft on gravel, face turned away from the congratulations that weren't meant for her. That was fine. That had always been fine. She had never done this for applause. Somewhere in the stillness she remembered her brother's voice, the way he had laughed when teaching her how to stand her ground. "Don't wait for them to call your name, just do the work, just take the step." He had said it like a joke, but she carried it like a creed. And so when the captain hesitated, when the squad froze, when the plan crumbled under fear and the weight of too many ifs, she had moved. Not loud, not visible, not the kind of step they would record in reports, just enough, just unseen. A door unlatched, a shadow slipped through, a thread of silence that changed everything. By dawn they would call it strategy. They would credit the captain's timing, the command's foresight. History always did that, folding names until only the rank remained. But she knew, and the one who had lived because she had been there knew. The child she carried back, silent in her arms, head resting against her shoulder, knew. The men talked big around the fire later, about survival, about orders, about luck. She said nothing. She just stared into the flame, feeling the weight of the night seep into her bones. Sometimes victory didn't roar, sometimes it barely breathed, and sometimes dignity didn't speak, it simply acted. Her unseen step had ended the night. But in the silence that followed, it became more than that. It became a reminder, etched not in medals, not in history, but in the way the survivors looked at her differently, even if they didn't have words for it. She stood adjusting her jacket against the cold and walked into the thin light of morning. No one stopped her, no one asked, no one needed to. The night had ended, and because of her, so had the waiting.